Hello Math 3 students. In this video we're going to be looking at how we could take your potential juice groove or drip groove or whatever you would like to call that groove on the top of your cutting board and create a toolpath for that in Partworks. Obviously we talked a little bit about in class how the overall size of your cutting board cannot be any bigger than 16 inches in length by 13 inches wide. And so with my design here, I'm going with that max size that we're allowed. Just to open up the sketch so you can see that, I got 16 inches by 13, and I've created a groove that if I were to measure it is an offset of an inch. So that's really important to pay attention to, especially when we start talking about grooves and the size of the bits that you would like to possibly use for that. So with this all said, we need to first export our design. Just as a reminder for you, when you're exporting a sketch in Onshape, you're right-clicking on Sketch 1 or whatever sketch number you have there and exporting as DXF/DWG. So this information is always available to you on the whiteboard, but as a reminder for you here, we're going to go ahead and make sure we include, don't mess up there. We're going to include our name, and of course, what is the part name? In this case, I like to call this End Grain CB Top. Format, we're looking at two different options. We're looking at DXF, though, is the preferred option here in class, and then our version is 2007. So that's just the year of the DXF file. It's going to get downloaded to your computer that we've assigned you here in class, so please make sure that you're using the appropriate laptop to download Onshape sketches as a DXF then so you can upload into Partworks. So we're going to export that, and that will show up in our downloads, and then we'll be able to move to the next step. So you can see it's popping up there. So let's go ahead and open up Partworks now. We're going to create a new file. And so final size of our board is 16 by 13 for my example here. So go ahead and put that in. We'll also put a thickness. Our final thickness can't be any smaller than 1.25 inches, so 1.25, and then we'll click OK. So that's done. The job setup's created. We can go ahead now and upload or import our sketch that we created in Onshape. Remember, it's not file open or even clicking on the little folder icon here. It's really important that you click on the right icon. So it's the fourth one in the top row called Import Vectors from a File. Vector simply meaning lines. So we're going to click on that. It's going to show up in your Downloads folder, so you can see my latest item there that I downloaded. We'll click Open, and it shows up over off to the side here. No worries. We can simply center this in Material. So everything's highlighted. We'll click under Align Objects, the first icon available, Center in Material. So once I've done that, I'm going to deselect what I just had selected there. And to make things easier for us, we're going to join our groove design together. So we're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to select all the lines that we would like to have joined to create our shape of our groove. So for me, I just went with a simple rectangle here. Nothing major, and this will allow me to kind of maximize my surface area where I can cut without having that groove possibly interfere with whatever I'm cutting on it. Okay, so I have two lines adjacent selected. I'm going to go under Edit Vectors, and I'm going to select Join with a Smooth Curve. I like this option because it does allow the program to kind of keep the radius, especially at the corners there, rounded without creating an additional straight line. So we'll go ahead and keep doing this all the way around. Notice that I'm only adding one additional line segment to the mix here. It's really important, and I'm noticing that I have a little bit of an error there. So we're going to hit Undo real quick. And so sometimes we get a little mistake happen. We're going to see if we can fix that. Yep, perfect. I can join that together with a smooth curve. All right, keep moving along here. So it's really important you pay attention to the order in which you join lines together. Sometimes line segments have a mind of their own, and Partworks does as well. So we want to try to get that shape the way you wanted it in Onshape now in Partworks. So now when I left click, It's all joined as one simple object, in this case a rectangle with rounded corners. Now you could be thinking, well, why can't I just draw this in Partworks? And the answer is you can, but if you have a more complex shape, it's better to draw this in Partworks and then you can bring it into the program. And so that's why I always recommend that you do that to begin with. So I have my object here ready to go for the next step, which is creating a toolpath. So we're going to close out of the drawing tab and we're going to open our toolpath tab. There's a couple different toolpaths we could use for this. However, I think the easiest option is going to be our profile toolpath. So we're going to click on that icon. This is where you're going to have to choose your cut depth. I like to choose a depth between 1/8 inch to a little bit bigger. 0.125 provides enough depth that you see a groove. However, it's not like a significant depth. If you're like, I think I want it a little bit deeper, you could definitely do that, 0.25, maybe 3/8. I wouldn't go any deeper though than 3/8. So we'll go 0.25 just for this example here. Remember, you got a pretty significant depth of or thickness of a cutting board, so you have the ability to go a little bit deeper than maybe you would have done in another project. The next thing we're going to choose is our tool. So what are we going to make this groove out of or with? So we have two different types of bits that you could choose from. If you're somebody that wants like more of a square groove, you could use an end mill. A 1/2 inch would be the size that we have available. We could also go to 3/4 of an inch if you're thinking I wanted it a little bit wider than a 1/2 inch. So that's a possibility. Another bit that you could choose from is called a ball nose. The ball nose we have are a 1/2 inch. Well, we have 1/4 inch. However, I think that's a little too tiny. We could go to a 1/2 inch, which would definitely work for this project. And then the other size that we do have is 1 inch. Just so you know, depending on your groove and how you drew it, keep in mind the bit is going to follow this line. So half of the bit will hang over the edge to the right, and half of it will go to the left, kind of follow that line on the center of the bit. So if you only have an inch space here like I do, that means you only have a 1/2 inch of material left between the outside edge of the groove and the outside edge of the board. So just to give you an idea of what that might look like, I'm going to show you my example here with a 1 inch diameter ball nose bit. Pass depth, fine at an 1/8 inch, so we don't need to change that. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to choose my machine vector is on, and I'm going to click calculate. And so when I do that, I'm able to preview my toolpath, and you can see exactly what that is going to look like. Not a lot of material on the outside edge there, from between the outside edge of the groove and the outside edge of the board. So is this the right thing for you? I can't make that call, but I can tell you that for me, I'm not too keen on that little material left behind after the CNC process is done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that diameter for my bit from 1 inch to 0.5, and I'm going to click OK, and again I click calculate. Now when I do that, you'll notice that nothing changed on my view here. I need to go back and hit reset preview and preview that toolpath, and there you can see I think that looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit better in my opinion for this project, or at least for my example. If I had my profile in, my rectangle in a little bit closer to the middle of the board, I think the 1 inch might look okay, but I like that spacing that's left behind between the outside edge of my groove and the outside edge of the board. So just something to keep in mind as you're thinking about your groove designs. A couple different bit options as far as ball nose or end mill, as well as the overall diameter of the bit and your depth. So lots of things to choose from if this is something that you are going to include in your project. Hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, repeat this video by watching it again, ask your classmates, and by all means ask your instructor as well.